All right, let's go ahead and get this started. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast, episode number 103, talking about meaning over happiness, right? Now, this is a podcast that's definitely interests me, definitely had interest me for sure to make a topic like this. I know there's probably a lot of people who have covered similar topics, but I definitely wanted to go ahead and get that started for sure. If you are in here, make sure you go ahead and say what's good as well. D, appreciate for stopping by, my guy. A few things I want to mention before I go ahead and get it started. Make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube Shorts as well as my TikTok, just Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok as well. Make sure you go ahead and support me on there for sure. Other than that, what else do I want to say? Yeah, it's happening with that for sure. I'm gonna be going live on Twitch. I'm gonna be doing more live streams on Twitch, so definitely stay tuned in for that for sure. If you like, the content that's outside of the podcast, that is something I'm going to be doing a little bit more frequently now. I'm just trying to figure out exactly how I would like to implement it within my schedule, and then I will let you guys know for sure. But other than that, yeah, let's go ahead and get this started. Let's go ahead and get this started. And also, if there's any questions that you have, because I know this is somewhat of a controversial thing to say, because in society we pedestalize happiness. Happiness is the paramount emotion, the paramount feeling that you can possibly have. So, like I said, if you guys are a person that believes that happiness is absolutely paramount, or believe that there's things that are going to be above happiness, I want you to go ahead and voice it within the comments as well. So, I want to start the podcast by kind of fulfilling you guys in on how I was introduced to this concept, right? So, this concept, like I said, the meaning over happiness, right? It sounds kind of crazy until you get the full explanation, right? So, I first heard this when I started listening to Jordan Peterson about 5 years ago when I was about 17. So that was definitely a great introduction to kind of open me up to a new concept and a new idea that was foreign and was something that really, I would say, struck a chord with me because it's something that I was taken aback by. Like I mentioned, society is going to pedestalize happiness. So if there's anything above happiness, and I was one of those people who thought, yeah, what's really above happiness? Like, what's better than being a happy person, right? Um, I I heard him out. I heard him out truly, right? I wasn't one of those people who were just automatically turned off. I wanted to hear what he had to say, and I wanted to know his reason behind it. And this was probably a year in of me consuming his content. If you have never heard of Jordan Peterson, he's a clinical psychologist. He was a teacher or professor at Harvard, and he's absolutely fantastic. The type of content he makes is definitely content that most people should be consuming because it's going to at the very least give you um, thought provoking, yeah, provoking thoughts, right? And also I have his book right over here. Yeah, hold up, right over here, Beyond Order: 12 More Rules for Life. I read both of his books, so they were absolutely fantastic. So I definitely would recommend that for sure. So yeah, so getting into the concept, right? All right. Yeah, so the reason behind him not wanting to have happiness be at the absolute paramount for society's view is because happiness is like all emotions, absolutely temporary, right? And if you base your life based off of how happy you are, and the days in which you are not happy, right? Because obviously, when there's a lot of sunshine, obviously there's going to be days of rain and things like that. So, with that being said, yeah, with that being said, if you base your life off of being happy, right, life is not going to always be happy, right? Now, I'm not saying that it is not a worthy emotion to pursue, right? I feel like people should pursue happiness, but they should not pursue it in the superficial sense because the superficial to be superficially happy is not a strong foundation to build everything from, right? So yeah, that's kind of how I wanted to go ahead and get that started because like I said, life's not always sunshine and rainbows. And when the days, like I said, when it starts raining, if you're basing your life based off of happiness, your life is going to your entire perception of your life is going to be absolutely absolutely destroyed, truly destroyed. That's why I say it's not as good of an ideal as, like, let's just say something like meaning, for example, right? Um, yeah, like I said, all emotions come and go. All emotions come and go. Happiness is one of the many, many emotions that you will experience within the human experience. So, With that being said, you must realize that even though it is a great feeling, it's not the paramount feeling that you can possibly feel within this human experience. With that being said, hold up, give me 1 second. Why pursue meaning? Why pursue meaning in general, right? Meaning is something that, first of all, it lasts, right? It lasts whether you're happy, whether you're sad. If you're doing something that is meaningful to you, or have things of meaning within your life, those things last. Those things ride out those waves, right? Yeah, they just ride out the waves of life, right? The highs, the lows. If you do things of meaning, meaning's always going to stay there, and that is why it is most important or rather more important than, let's just say, happiness, right? Because like I said, happiness is just very, very cyclical, right? Um, with that being said, if you're also pursuing happiness, you're pursuing short-term highs, and those short-term highs can be very, very um, detrimental, truly detrimental, right? If I wanted to pursue happiness, right? If happiness was the absolute paramount, I'd be eating all types of any food that I would want. I'd have ice cream every single day. I wouldn't go to the gym because the gym is, it takes a lot of self discipline. And if I wanted to be happy, I would just go on my phone all day or do something like that, right? But there's no true utility. There's no true utility in that. And it's like I said, it's just nothing but a short term high. Chasing happiness is a short term high, and you see a lot of people. I would say the saddest people and the people that I see struggle the most with their mental health, they have happiness as their top paramount emotion or feeling rather. And I recognize the flaws within that because, like I said, in one moment they're happy, in one moment they're enjoying life and thinking that everything's absolutely worth it, and then in the next moment they're wishing truly for their life to end, and it's not exactly consistent. It's not consistent, and it's because their foundation that they build their life off of, what they view to be living life is truly flawed. It's cracked. And I see it, like I said, I see this with a lot of people, and it's because people do not think deeper than what they're told to think. Most people will not seek out information that would suggest something deeper than what they're told. That's just as simple as that. And with that being said, you're going to see the downfalls of that in other people's lives. And I'm sure you watching this, I'm sure you've seen it time and time again, where you see somebody close to you, or you see somebody that you observe, and they're not exactly as happy as they possibly could be, right? And you see, and I feel like you can kind of tell whether people view this as paramount or not. I'm talking about happiness. I feel like you can kind of see this within a person's actions. I feel like most of those people are very, very superficial people. They're not trying to be superficial. They're not trying to be superficial, but they're just superficial individuals. And they just don't think. They just don't think for themselves. And at least that's the way that I think. Um, yeah, that's what I think, right? Give me 1 second though. So yeah, okay. Ask yourself the question: what's better than happiness? Right. This is a very, very interesting question. What's better than happiness? Like I said, meaning is definitely going to be something because is something that is going to be better than happiness because it actually lasts. It'll outlast. It'll outlast all the bad days, and it'll be there on the good days as well. Right. So a few other things that I would say are better than happiness, and this is something that um, I've definitely experienced for myself, and something that, like I said, I've viewed people's lives who are the most, I would say, the most happy, but who are doing the most in this life, and who are truly living some of the best human experiences that experience can buy you, right? I would say evolving and developing the self is definitely a feeling better than being happy, right? Because this is something that actually lasts. Like I said, these things that last are so much more rewarding, and it is definitely a more of a greater pursuit. First of all, because like I said, developing the self, it is going to be an ongoing process. Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. It's going to be an ongoing process to go ahead and make sure you're doing the best that you possibly can do. Um, and this should be something that you apply to your own life, right? Do not just live life on very, very superficial terms, right? Dig deeper. Understand that you can do better than what you're doing right now. Believe truly that you can do better than what you will do, than what you have done in the past, and you will do better than you'll do better in the future than what you could do now, right? You must have these certain beliefs, right? Especially with developing the self, right? Obviously, you're not perfect, right? And nobody's perfect. So with that being said, what can you do to better your life? And I do believe that if you pursue that, it is going to be way more rewarding than trying to seek just happiness. All right, another feeling that I would say it is better than happiness is going to be pursuing fulfillment in one's life, right? So this is gonna kind of go hand in hand with, at least in my own view, right, my own lens, the life of a champ, right? This is gonna go hand in hand with the evolving and developing the self, right? Understanding that fulfillment is something worth pursuing, and the complete fulfillment is one thing. Complete fulfillment is something that you'll probably never attain, but it's definitely something worth striving for, and definitely an ideal to strive for. With that being said, trying to go ahead and find fulfillment. What does fulfillment look like? And being very very clear with that. What does it look like in your own life? Right. This is something that I've asked myself time and time again. What does fulfillment in this current moment in time? Right. This current stage of life that I'm in. This current chapter that I'm in. What does fulfillment look like? Right. How does it act? What do I have to do in order to get as close as I possibly can to being fulfilled? Because that is something that also definitely lasts for sure. And like I said, it's something you're always going to be chasing at the end of the day, but it's definitely a much more worthwhile feeling than happiness, because fulfillment comes from truly accomplishing something, right? At least that's the way that I see it. In some type of capacity, you're accomplishing something, and yeah, like I said, fulfillment is just if you're not doing anything that's fulfilling you, right? The way that I look at it is filling your cup, right? And that's pretty much what it is, right? If you're not doing anything that's really filling your cup with the drink that you want, right? Then you're doing something wrong. If you do not have enough fulfillment in your day, there's truly gonna be a flaw within what you're doing, right? The blueprint that you have for life is flawed if you're not constantly doing and pursuing things that are gonna bring you fulfillment. So some of these things for me, what brings me fulfillment, me in my own personal life, right? This is going to be working on myself, like I mentioned, right? And I'm gonna this is gonna be in many different areas. So going to the gym definitely brings me some type of fulfillment, even though it's something that I'm constantly chasing. It's something that I recognize that at the end of the day, if that's done, the day was better because that was done, right? And that brings me a sense of fulfillment because I'm getting closer to the ideal body that I'm trying to build, right? Will I ever be there? I don't know, right? But what I will say though is, me acting in accordance is gonna bring me fulfillment in that one capacity, right? So another thing that brings me fulfillment is going to be doing things like this, right? Trying to give people the most game that I possibly can, right? Trying to give them the best advice and try to steer them in the right direction when society is trying to steer you in the wrong direction, right? Um, this is something that I've said time and time again on the podcast. Society doesn't exactly truly have the best interest in mind for you. The people who have the most influence within society truly do not have your best interest in mind. All they're trying to do is benefit from you, right? And with that being said, where was I going? What I'm trying to do right here with like I said, bringing myself some fulfillment is by giving the people the game, right? Giving them and steering them in the right direction that's going to truly help them, and not only just help them, but help them to the point where they're helping others in their community out, right? Helping their family, helping their friends, right? Doing things like that. That's ultimately what's going to bring me fulfillment. Is if I know I'm making a difference by helping people out, right? That is going to bring me fulfillment. So me doing this podcast is definitely going to bring me a sense of fulfillment. Another thing that brings me a sense of fulfillment is going to be pursuing worthwhile relationships, whether this is friendships, whether this is interactions with women in own my own life, right? That is going to bring me a sense of fulfillment in some type of way, right? Because I recognize that life is not as good if you don't spend it with people who are worth your time, right? And there's a lot of people, sadly, and if you're a person watching this and you don't have anybody that's bringing you fulfillment, I would say definitely go ahead and pursue that for sure, or do whatever you got to do to go ahead and have as many of those interactions as you possibly can. So, like I said, what brings me fulfillment is spending time with my friends, right? Trying to get better, trying to help them out, right? That is ultimately what's going to bring me fulfillment. On top of that, like I said, also pursuing my romantic relationships as well. That's going to bring me some type of fulfillment, because it's definitely going to be something that I view as an absolute necessity when it comes to the life that I'm trying to live. So living life without that is gonna definitely be a little bit of a detriment when it comes to bringing me fulfillment, right? And of course, those are only a few examples. Also, spending time with family and making sure those relationships are very very solid, and catching up, having conversations with people, that's going to bring me fulfillment as well. Those are a few examples of what truly brings me fulfillment in your life. So another question you must ask yourself is, what brings you fulfillment? And here's the thing: how do you do that more? Ask yourself that question, and you're going to get much more out of this life for sure. And another thing with, like I said, happiness is very, very superficial, even though it's great. But another thing that I want to mention is this: a feeling that is better than happiness is going to be pursuing your own individual life's purpose, right? Now, a lot of people are very, very unclear with what this looks like for their life, right? I'm a person who I've came to a very, very clear conclusion of what that looks like in my life, and I can go ahead and say it right here, right? So what brings me, or what is my purpose? My purpose is going to be inspiring, empowering, and educating the ones around me and of my influence, right? That is going to bring me, that is my purpose. That is going to bring me my fulfillment. So doing that and fulfilling that any way I possibly can, in any capacity, whether this is doing the podcast, whether this is interacting with somebody that I love, or whether this is, whatever future endeavor that I do pursue, just know that that's going to be the foundation of why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to pursue my purpose, right? And most people, like I had mentioned, do not have a clear sense of what their purpose looks like. And if you're a person who's lacking who's lacking true purpose, one purpose that I recognize, okay, two things should be your purpose. If you don't know exactly what your purpose is, these two things need to be your purpose. Number one, finding your purpose is going to be your purpose, right? It's just straight out the gate. Finding your purpose needs to be your purpose, right? Another purpose for your life is going to be being the best version of yourself for the people around you, not just for you in your own life. Obviously, you'll benefit from, improving, but more importantly, doing it for the ones around you, because that is going to be something that is bigger than yourself, right? And I feel like that's very, very important. And like I said, it's not stressed enough within society. So if you don't know exactly what your defined purpose is to be, those two things, finding your purpose as well as understanding that your life's purpose is for the ones around you, right? Um, I would say that kind of goes for everybody. So that should be a universal thing. But be more specific. What do you want your purpose to look like? What do you feel like you bring to this world? What effect do you want to have on other people? Because your purpose must stem out beyond yourself. That is the only way it's true purpose. True purpose is going to be contributing to the betterment of society, right? GDP, appreciate for stopping by. With that being said, those are going to be some feelings. Those are going to be a few feelings that are going to be better than happiness, right? Like I said, do not be a person who just chases happiness, because if you chase happiness when happiness is no longer there, you're going to be looking at yourself saying, what the hell is going on within my life? Now, if you're a person who, like I mentioned, is pursuing developing yourself, pursuing meaning or fulfillment, or fulfilling your life's purpose, you're going to be living a better life because of that. And now, what I will say though, is by doing all those things, there's going to be moments that are going to be less than satisfactory. And that is just life. That is just life, right? When you're in the midst of developing yourself, there's going to be moments where you're happy, right? And there's going to be moments when you're sad. But that is just life in itself, right? But just know that you're pursuing something deeper than happiness. You're pursuing something deeper than happiness, and something that's going to truly last, and something that's going to truly affect the ones around you, which is more important. Also, with like I said, pursuing meaning and fulfillment. That's something that's so deep, and something that's so much lacking from people's lives. Um, but that's constantly going to give you more than what happiness could ever give you. Also with that, give me 1 second. Hold up. Like I said, if you're in here, I want you to go ahead and leave a comment, just like as you was in here. The topic for today is going to be. The topic for today is rather, um, meaning over happiness. Right. A lot of people, like I mentioned, they pedestalize happiness for whatever reason. I do not understand it, but all I'm trying to do with this podcast is trying to show you a lens that I was shown myself. Right. Like I said, shout out to Jordan Peterson. He's a person that gave me that paradigm that I needed in order to really evaluate kind of how I wanted my life to be, right? And the way that I seen it is, he allowed me to truly think bigger than myself, to truly evaluate my life, and not only evaluate my life, but to truly evaluate the lives of the ones around me. And maybe, like I said, I could help those people out, which is my ultimate goal. Give me 1 second. All right. With that being said, I want you to ask yourself these questions. Like I said, these are questions that I've personally asked myself, and I can give you an answer if you would like. If you're curious enough to ask, I'll give you my answer on these questions, right? So these are going to be questions that are going to help out most people. Most people do not have these clearly defined, and most people truly need to first understand what questions they need to ask themselves and therefore ask the questions and then go ahead and answer them. But these are going to be questions, like I said, if you could take anything from this podcast at all, it is going to be asking yourself these questions. Okay, first question is going to be, what brings you a sense of meaning? Whatever that looks like, figure out exactly what that looks like. If you don't have anything, you need to start developing yourself in ways where that will be something that truly stands out to you, right? And with that being said, so you see, it's a two-part question, right? What brings you a sense of meaning, and how do I do that more? You ask yourself those two questions, you're going to be solid. Now, the next question you must ask yourself as well. Like I said, you're going to get the most out of your life if you ask and answer this question. This is going to be, what is something that feels worthwhile and brings you fulfillment when it's a pursuit of yours, right? What is going to bring you that sense of fulfillment, right? What are you doing right now that is not bringing you fulfillment? What can you do? And here's, most people know what they need to do when it comes to bringing themselves a sense of fulfillment, right? What do you know you need to do? Do that. And like I said, like I mentioned with the first one, how do you do it more? How do you bring your sense of fulfillment a little bit more? Ask yourself that question. Ask yourself that question for sure. All right, another question is going to be, like one I already mentioned, right? What is your own individual life purpose? So you're gonna ask yourself that question, right? Become clear. I want you to have a statement. When I say, hey, what is your purpose? I want you to come with a statement. Something that you've thought about, something that you've curated over time, something that you've edited, and something that means something to you, right? When that is said, you say that with pride, right? When somebody asks me what's my purpose, which rarely happens ever, I'm able to give them a solid answer that is truly thought about, right? And something that has been edited and something that has been added to throughout the years. So with that being said, ask yourself that question. What is your own individualized purpose, and are you fulfilling that purpose truly? So figure out what it is, figure out if you're pursuing it, and figure out how you can fulfill your purpose in many different areas. Because even though I mentioned, right, I'm pursuing my purpose by making a podcast like this, right? But there's going to be many different things that I do within this life that is truly going to be fulfilling that purpose of, like I had mentioned, inspiring, educating, and empowering the ones around me and of my influence, right? So with that being said, ask yourself the question of what your life purpose is. Figure out more ways to do that. And also, like I said, I would say another purpose is, trying to help others, or at least maybe this is my own, right? Trying to help people with their own life's purpose, right? Because like I said, a lot of people, they're just living life, man. They're just living life. But out here, man, I'm just trying to make sure you guys are living life the best life you possibly can live. So, with that being said, that is going to be another one of my own one. Like I said, trying to help people with becoming clear on what their life purpose is, because that is something that is gonna make such a big impact within most people's lives. So, that is what my ultimate goal is, right? Hey, I appreciate it, man. KJ, I appreciate for stopping by, man. Of course, you got to get it in, man. Of course, you got to get it in. But yeah, this is definitely a good one for sure. Definitely something worth rewatching if you wanted to go ahead and do that, right? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. All right. So, the purpose of asking those questions, along with whatever I already mentioned, right? I've already mentioned a lot of why you should ask yourself that question, but understanding that those things, they never leave, and you can always reinvent yourself by taking a deeper look of what that looks like into your life and how you can apply that to your life, right? Whether it's, like I said, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of meaning, a sense of, just bettering yourself in every aspect that you possibly can, or pursuing your life's purpose. Those things are going to be a solid foundation to build your life off of. And there's going to be, of course, like I said, there's going to be moments where you're not feeling the best. But if you're able to refocus in on those certain things when life's not going your way, right? If you're able to focus in on those certain things, it's going to bring you back down to earth. It's going to ground you in what you need to be grounded in. It's going to allow you to focus on the things that are worth focusing on in this life. And it's going to put you in a better position so you can achieve happiness a lot more, right? Um, and like I said, happiness is one thing, but it's gonna give you a whole sense. It's like I said, I would say the word to use that is fulfillment, right? And it's going to give you that sense of fulfillment. And that is something that I would say we should be chasing. We should truly be chasing. We should be doing everything we can to go ahead and feel something deeper than happiness. Simple as that. And one thing I want to mention as well, which is Jordan Peterson mentions many times, right? Meaning is a better aim than happiness. It's a better aim because it's more. Well, first, if you answer what meaning is, what brings you meaning, right? It is just deeper. It is just so much. It has so much more depth and it has so much more potential than what you could think of what makes you happy, right? Not like I said, I'm not trying to belittle happiness, right? I'm just trying to get you to really understand where that lies within your life, right? How important is that truly? And one thing I want to mention as well, especially if you're a man watching this, right? Happiness is not going to be, it's definitely not going to be something of the highest importance, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't be happy. I'm saying if you're not happy, there's going to be reasons for you not being happy, right? And something I want to say as well, which, like I said, you guys can define it as whatever you would like, but this is something that I've observed, right? Your feelings don't care about your goals, man. They don't care, man. There's still things that need to get done in this life, and if you're a person that is just dictated by based off of what you feel, right? You're not going to get much done in this life. You're going to be very much a victim of your circumstance. You're going to be a victim of your emotions. You're going to be a victim of the way your mind works. And you must understand that you can control your own mind, right? You can override certain things like, oh yeah, I don't feel like doing it, right? You can override that laziness. You can override that unmotivated mind state, right? You can override these things if you truly believe you can override these things. So, like I said, it is just meaning such a better aim. It's such a better aim than happiness. That's for damn sure. And with all these things, like I said, sense of fulfillment, meaning, pursuing your life's purpose and bettering yourself, it's gonna bring you all of the emotions that come with the human experience, which is going to make that is gonna make it such a more fulfilling thing, truly fulfilling thing. When you get to experience all those emotions, right? You get to really analyze the human experience and say, hey, this is worth pursuing. This is not worth pursuing. This is something that truly means something to me. This is something that truly doesn't mean anything to me, right? By by understanding that, like I said, we are all living the human experience, and the human experience is not filled with just rainbows and sunshine. Sadly, it's not. But you can either one, hope and wish it's always like sunshines and rainbows, or you can say, well, it's not always like that. Now, what can I do that, like I said, when it starts raining outside, what can I do that's going to bring the sun back out? That's ultimately what it is. I do believe that your sense of self-worth will go up because your happiness is not a main predictor on whether you're living the best life you possibly can. Let's just say that. So like I said, if you're watching this right now, if you can take anything from this podcast, I want you to go ahead and leave it in the comments for sure. Also, if you're rewatching this, I want you to go ahead and give me your opinion on some of the things that I mentioned. Right? What are certain things that you liked of what I mentioned today, and what are certain things that you didn't like? Right? I want to know your guys' take. And like I said, if you're watching this, you're just as important as people who are watching this live. So make sure you go ahead and give your 2 cents because, like I said, everybody's 2 cents matters for sure. And if you do go ahead and respond after the fact, I will be responding to the comments. If you comment, I will 100% leave a comment after that. So tap in with that. I'm going to tap in with that for sure. Yeah, so this is definitely one of my favorite podcasts that I've made for sure because this is something that I've thought about. And if you can't tell, this is something that I've thought about very thoroughly, right? It is a concept that has been ruminating within my thoughts for a minute now, right? A few years. And yeah, one thing like I said, I just gotta say shout out to Jordan Peterson with giving me who's been able to give me these ideas, whether they're his own ideas or not, right? I would just say that it's definitely something that's been very thought provoking. I just want to go ahead and share that game with people for sure. I did go ahead and went to see him, and I'll mention this again just in case you're new, right? I went to go ahead and see him in November of last year, right? In November of 2022, and it was definitely an experience worth having, and I wish I can go ahead and do it again, right? It was something that allowed me to really be in a room with people, and you could truly feel this within the room of people who are deep thinkers, right? And I think that's absolutely fantastic. And that is something that I want to cultivate within this podcast is by giving the game out to people who truly think deeper than the most people. And that is something that I felt within that room and something that I was so glad to be a part of. And yeah, for sure. Like I said, if you can get to an event like that, I would definitely recommend it for sure. It was basically like a seminar essentially. But yeah, I would say if you can get out to one of those events, go ahead and do it because it'll be a hell of a time for sure. Um, so like I said, make sure you're thinking deeper than most people. That's what I'm gonna say. It's not hard. It's really not that. It's not that hard. I've been doing it for years now. Just make sure you're thinking deeper than most people because if you are, you're going to be living a life that those people can never make for themselves. That's just me being honest. That's just me being honest. Um, so like I said, if you took something from this podcast, let me know. If you didn't, let me know, right? If you've learned all of this already, right? If you've heard all of what I mentioned today, right? Let me know. And if you heard nothing, if you never heard anything like this before in your entire life, I want you to go ahead and let me know for sure. Give me one second. Give me one second. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and reiterate some of my favorite points that I made on today's podcast, and then I'm gonna go and end it off. But like I said, I appreciate everyone for stopping by. And one thing I want to mention as well, part of being a man, fellas, is doing the work even when no one is watching. Super, super important. Right now, I got one viewer right now watching this right now. And it doesn't matter because the work still is going to be put in, right? When no one's watching, if the work isn't put in, then how the hell is anybody gonna watch? How are you gonna do what you need to do when everybody's watching you? You're not going to be able to do that. So when nobody's looking at you, man, when nobody's observing, nobody's checking up on you, make sure you're still doing what you need to do. And this is something that I'm still trying to get better at within my own life, right? But definitely something that I feel like everybody should hear. So I wanted to mention that for sure. So going back, kind of reiterating some points that I've already made. What? How did I get these ideas, man? How did I get this idea? How was I introduced to this concept? I was introduced to this concept, I think, when I was about 18 or 19, right? I just got done reading The 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, and I watched a lot of his seminars, which led me to go ahead and buy his book. Um, but yeah, when I went ahead and bought that book and read it thoroughly, it was definitely one of the best reads that I've read up until that point. And I just heard him say that there's something deeper than happiness. And like I was like my first reaction was probably similar to your guys' reaction hearing this video or hearing the title of this video. I was like, really? What are you talking about? How is something better than happiness? Happiness is such a great feeling. It's something that is so, yeah, just so great, right? And I had that paradigm because of everyone else around me, right? Everyone wanting to pursue happiness, trying to do whatever it takes to feel that quick high of happiness, right? Now, of course, you're gonna go ahead and pursue that in a lot of different ways, and it's gonna look different to every single person. But with that being said, I recognize that after hearing him out, which is something that you need to do. If there's a person that's has a controversial idea, hear them out. Hear them out. Maybe they have something to say. Maybe they don't have anything to say, right? But hear them out nonetheless. I went ahead and heard that out thoroughly, and I recognize that it's not something worth pedestalizing because it just comes and goes. It comes and goes like all these emotions. And, to live a life without it completely, not a life I would recommend, right? But if you're pursuing the things that I said are worth pursuing, which are pursuing meaning, pursuing fulfillment, pursuing bettering yourself in every aspect that you can, making the small improvements, and also figuring out what your life purpose is and going ahead and achieving your life's purpose by doing it time and time again in different aspects of your life, right? If you're doing those certain things, you're going to be happy in those moments. You're going to be happy. You're going to be happy by pursuing those things. You just are. And I would say your mental health is going to be better in ways in which I cannot truly express to this camera. But you best believe that it is going to be just overall better for your life, and not only better for your life, but more importantly better for everyone else around you, right? With that being said, like I said, all emotions are temporary. Make sure you're choosing things that are deeper than just emotions, right? Um, like I mentioned, there's a lot of things that are better than happiness. I'm not going to reiterate that. But ask yourself these questions. I'm going to go ahead and end it off with these things right here. Like I said, this is going to be very, very paramount. If you're taking anything from this podcast, ask yourself these questions. You can go ahead and write them down right now. I'll give you some time to write them down. But these questions are going to be very, very important. The questions that you must ask yourself that are going to give you a deeper sense than happiness could ever give you is going to be, What brings you a sense of meaning in this life? Ask yourself that question. And if you do not know what brings you a sense of meaning, try different things out. You might not have tried enough things out if you don't know exactly what brings you meaning, right? Maybe you haven't asked yourself enough questions that are going to be not some of the questions that I'm mentioning, but you just haven't asked yourself smaller questions that still need to be answered, right? Maybe you're a little bit unclear on certain things about your life. But ask yourself what brings you a sense of meaning, and then ask yourself, how do you do more of that? How can you do more of that within your day? How can you do that daily? How can you do that weekly? How can I do that every hour, right? Asking yourself, how can I bring myself a sense of meaning, right? Along with this is going to be a good question as well. What is something that feels worthwhile and brings you fulfillment when you're in the pursuit of it? Ask yourself that question. That is a very, very important question. And also, what brings you fulfillment and how do you do more of what brings you fulfillment? It's a similar question to the meaning one, but meaning and fulfillment is very, very similar, but it's slightly different. And the last questions that I would go ahead and ask you, to go ahead and ask yourself and answer are going to be, what is your own life's purpose, right? Like I mentioned, right? If you do not know your life's purpose, it's gonna be these two things up until the point where you have a clear mission statement of what that looks like, right? Two things. Your purpose is going to be figuring out exactly what your purpose is, big thing. And second, your life's purpose is going to be bettering yourself in every way you possibly can, because that is something that you can control and something that should be part of your life purpose. Because you're not as great as you could be, right? And if you agree with that, okay, what can you do to be better than what you are right now? Ask yourself that question, and that is going to be your purpose. That is going to be a purpose worth pursuing within this life. Now, whether that's your life's purpose or whether that's just your purpose, right? I feel like it's not exactly the same thing, right? Your purpose versus your life's purpose, two different things. But I feel like your life's purpose is going to be much grander than yourself, but your own personal purpose is going to be bettering yourself, right? Pursuing those things that I had mentioned. Um, but yeah, ask yourself those questions. And the reason for doing that is because these things stay. These things have more of a solid foundation, right? And if you're a person who's lacking a solid foundation, asking yourself those questions, becoming very, very clear with those things, is going to put you in a much better position, better than a lot of people that exist right now. A lot of people they're misguided. They're listening to what society is telling them when society never has the best interest in mind for them. So if you're a person who wants to be different than most people, which you watching this podcast, you should be, then go ahead and ask yourself those questions and answer it very, very thoroughly. Other than that, I appreciate everyone for stopping by. Well, like I said, if you're rewatching this, make sure to go ahead and leave a comment just so I can see who's in here. And if you have any questions or comments regarding anything that I mentioned on today's podcast, make sure to go ahead and leave in the comments. A few other things I wanted to mention before I go and end it off. Make sure you go ahead and follow me on TikTok, as well as leaving a like on my YouTube shorts as well. I'm trying to post those a little bit more frequently. I'm getting adjusted to my new schedule, so I'm trying to make sure I'm becoming more consistent with that. So make sure you go ahead and leave a like on there. And like I said, Life of a Champ podcast on TikTok as well. Trying to get to 500 followers on there, so that is something that I'm looking forward to very, very soon. Other than that, I'll leave you guys off with the podcast motto. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure y'all work at these motherfuckers every single day. And don't miss a day where you're not outworking these motherfuckers in some type of way, man. Make sure you tap in with the podcast on Thursday. Tap in with that for sure. I'm looking forward to that podcast as well. We're going to go ahead and get the month started right. March of Takeover 23. We're going to go ahead and get that month going for sure. That is definitely a month that I'm looking forward to, and definitely will reap me a lot of things that I've been looking for. So make sure you go ahead and, like I said, leave a like on this video as well. Other than that, you guys have a good rest of your night. And like I said before, man, make sure y'all working these motherfuckers, because somebody got to do it, and it's got to be us, man. So simple as that. Y'all have a good rest of your night. And like I said, tap in on Thursday, man.